Hey everybody, this is Jerry Nines coming at you with another shooting video. I thought I'd do something a little bit different this time, and I want to talk about a good way for you to be able to go to the range, maybe without a whole lot of ammo, maybe without a whole lot of money to spend, and be able to get some good training in. We're gonna go ahead and talk about what I like to call the 5 and 50 drill. This is 5 separate shooting drills that are 10 rounds each, and they allow you to go and really work on some of those shooting fundamentals. Now, for those of you that are experienced shooters, just remember, the best saxophone players in the world start off every day by blowing scales. So if you're not working on your fundamentals, then it might be something to rethink, because again, it is critical and key to achieving excellence in any endeavor. When we go out and when we go shooting, some people like to say that it's always good to go out to the range with a plan. And when they say a plan, they mean a plan for training. And I don't think that's bad advice at all. I think it's actually really good advice. Even if you know that you're just like, hey, you know what? My plan is I'm gonna put a target out at 10 feet and I'm just gonna shoot this gun because I wanna test it for function, or I just feel like, you know, making some holes in paper. I'm gonna challenge you to, whenever you go out, just go ahead and just state to yourself what your plan is. Maybe you can incorporate the 5 and 50 drill for today. If you look, you can see that there's a paper plate down there that I've just simply tacked to a tree stump. Let's talk about the 5x50 drill. First of all, it uses one of my favorite targets, which, as you just saw, is a paper plate. I like them because they're cheap, and also the size of a paper plate, a 6-inch or an 8-inch paper plate, is a pretty good approximation of where you should be aiming, center of mass. And if we are talking about concealed carry, self-defense of others, and all the other things that I say when I say that sentence, 6 to 8 inches is a pretty good aiming spot. Let's go ahead and get set up for phase 1, which is 7 yards and 10 rounds deliberate. I am shooting my Springfield SA-35, which is their copy of the Browning high power pistol. For ammo, it's mostly Winchester M1152 training. See what else? I'm wearing the auto air protection, which is great. Let me just say again, we're gonna do 10 rounds. It is not about being as fast as you can. It's actually about being as slow as you can in some ways. I want you to focus on the front sight. I want you to focus on all of the things that you're doing that you need to do to get the shot to go where you want it to go. Now, one of the things that most people sort of fail at, and certainly I did for years and years when I first started shooting, is they fail at follow through. Follow through is basically saying that I come in and I do everything right. I have my gun aimed right. I have it held right. Everything's going good. And I pull the trigger, and correct follow through is where I continue to do those things even after the shot breaks. Now, some people say, Jerry Nines, how is it that me holding onto my sight alignment, holding onto my trigger, how does that help me if the bullet's already downrange? Well, the theory, which is 100% sound, I've seen it with shooters, is that if you know you're going to do everything until after the shot breaks, then you're going to do it right up until the shot breaks. I've seen so many shooters that they're doing everything right, and then everything falls apart in that last microsecond, and then all of a sudden you're having accuracy problems downrange. So follow through is going to be sort of one of our keys for the day. Let's go ahead and get our 10 rounds downrange. Magazine out. Physically and visibly inspect the chamber. We are clear. Let's go ahead and walk it downrange. Not bad, several in one hole. I will say that the very first round is that one round that is just dead center. Everything else started drifting off to the right. Still, every shot on target, every shot effective. All right, second firing string is going to be strong hand only. One of the things that I like to tell people when we're talking about shooting with one hand is what to do with your other hand. So you can do pretty much anything you want with it, right? You can keep it bladed and kind of close to your chest if you want to, sort of that FBI style. You can keep it in your pocket. You can have it float off in space if you want to, but just make sure you keep track of it because they're both not on the gun. You don't want anything to get in front of the gun. The other thing that I like to talk about is when you are shooting with one hand, sometimes it's a good idea, and I invite you to try this, to just go ahead, and this area is safe as well, by the way, so I'm going to go ahead and point this down range or in another safe area, and go ahead and instead of holding your gun to where you're at 6 and 9 o'clock, cant it ever so slightly, about a 40-degree angle. What that does biomechanically is it includes these muscles that run atop the forearm in the equation, and I think you might have a little bit better recoil control. So again, let's go ahead and do our 10 rounds, strong hand only. Follow through each time. Okay, slides lock back, empty magazine, and visually and physically inspect. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to simply switch hands, and we're going to go with the offhand, one-hand shooting. Weapon on safe, going to transfer hands, and here we go. Again, utilizing that 45-degree angle. Slide lock back, magazine out, visually, physically inspect, our gun is clear. Let's go and take a look. It's kind of interesting. Okay, all hits, which is nice. You may have noticed, or you may notice now that we're kind of drifting back to center. Now, does that mean that the center hits are really the anomaly? Or does it mean that something's happening and really where the most shots are grouped over there on the right is really sort of my point of aim? Maybe I need to adjust my sights a little bit. But either way, again, we have all good hits. Phase 4 is going to be drawing from the holster, slow and controlled. Controlled and slow and slow. What did I say 3 times? Slow. Because slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The reason I draw straight to the target, and again, we are facing down range, is because when I establish that grip, I come up, I orient the weapon to the target. I have this nice elbow tuck position. If I needed to, I could go ahead and I can engage my target right from here. And then from here, I am on target, on target, on target, on target, all the way back on target, on target, on target, on target. What that does for me is it gets away from this, where I draw, and then I go like this. And now I'm off target, off target, off target, off target, up, now I'm on target. Or even worse is when people draw, and in Hollywood they like to do this sometimes. They draw, I'm not even gonna do it with my gun, that's how much I hate it. And they do that, right? And again, none of that gets you on target faster. We're gonna do 10 rounds. Every round is individual. Every draw is individual. We're going to follow those steps. We're not gonna be using the SA-35. Instead, I have my Smith & Wesson 6946, which I have a left-handed holster for, and I can safely draw with the left hand. I don't need to use the right hand for any safeties or anything. So let's go ahead and get our 10 rounds, working on the draw every time. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I really should be following through more, right? I broke that one down too early. And we're clear. You should be your own harshest critic. If every time you go to the range you do everything right, then guess what? You're not paying attention. Be aware of what can go wrong, be aware of what you do wrong, and correct it the next time around. Don't be afraid to invite your friends, maybe your friends that aren't the nicest ones in the world, and we all know who those are, to critique you, imagining that they know what they're doing. Or even if you teach them what to critique you on, I want to work on follow through, I want to work on not flinching, I want to work on, you know, getting a good grip on the firearm before I draw it from the holster. Again, don't be afraid to critique yourself and be your own harshest critic. That's the only way we get good. Well, that and practice and, you know, watching Jerry Nine's videos. So we're going to go to our last firing iteration, our last phase, and we're coming up on number 5, which is going to be our reloading drill. Okay, we're in our last phase and we have 10 rounds left. So for this phase, we're going to start off with 3 magazines. One magazine is going to have 4 rounds in it. The second magazine is going to have 3 rounds in it, and the third magazine is going to have 3 rounds in it for a total of 10 rounds. You're going to put the first magazine with 4 rounds into your firearm. You're going to load your firearm, make ready. You can do this from the holster if you want to. You can do it from a tabletop, whatever works for you. Or you can just start with the gun in your hands. After you fire 4 rounds, your slide is going to lock back, assuming your firearm does lock back in an empty magazine. Some don't. Either way, you're going to get that magazine out of the gun. You're going to go ahead and reload with a fresh magazine, and then you're going to fire 3 more rounds. Slide will lock back, or you'll be empty, and then you're going to reload again for a total of 10 rounds with 2 total reloads. When loading, let's go ahead and get our index finger along the front leading edge of the magazine with the tip of our index finger pointing at the tip of the cartridge at the top of the magazine. That allows one hand to find the other, and then we can get going. 4 rounds, mandatory reload. 3 rounds, mandatory reload. After we eject that empty magazine, we're going to access our other magazine. We're going to come up, same thing, one hand finds the other. 3 rounds. Don't forget, these 4 rounds, 3 rounds, and 3 rounds, you can still be focusing on all the things that you were doing in all the other phases, especially phase 1. 2 hands, 7 yards, 10 rounds. Follow through, sight alignment, trigger squeeze, all those things. Now you're just putting something in the middle of it. Let's get these other 3 rounds off. Again, we drop that empty magazine, we access our fresh magazine, bring it up, keeping our eyes on the target, and one hand meets the other, get that magazine in, charge that weapon, and go to work. Empty magazine, slides lock back. Visually and physically inspect, and we're clear from the range for the day. So again, by having a plan, without spending a lot of money, you can go ahead and go to the range with 1 box of ammo and run through enough drills to provide you with some good challenges to the basics. Now, how did I do today? Well, I think I did okay. Yeah, here's our target. You'll notice that we do have a pretty nice cluster of rounds there. In the middle, we are about we're probably a shade over 21 feet away. I think we're about 25 feet away. Now, a couple of things. This is where a staple ripped the paper. That is not a miss, but we do have 2 rounds here that are touching, and they are breaking the paper, but they're kind of off on the edge. I consider that to be fairly unacceptable. I want to talk a little bit about what was going on and where I think maybe those rounds came from. During the offhand, one hand only shooting, my arm started getting fatigued. I really started seeing my everything kind of degrade. You may notice if you replay it, I even kind of hurried up those last few shots. I was really trying to show how slow is smooth, smooth is fast, but I was going too slow for me, And that doesn't mean that I'm Mr. Amazing. I just meant I was going too slow for my old shoulder muscles, right? But, you know, don't forget there's no shame in saying, hey, you know what, I'm halfway through this firing string. Maybe I bring that gun down. Maybe I relax. Maybe I just rest for a second. There's no reason in the world why we have to always do all 10 rounds at once, right? So just something to think about. Having said that, I don't think that's horrible. I think for the most part, we're in there pretty good. So again, paper plate that really cost me nothing. I have one in the drawer, but you can buy, I don't know, 8 tons of these for about $4, right? So this cost next to nothing. And, you know, one box of ammo, 9mm, you can get a box of 9mm ammo for $14, and you can go ahead and you can get some really good training. Don't forget, as I said before, the best horn players in the world practice the scales every single day. If they can do the basics, I can do the basics, you can do the basics. Hey, this is Jerry Nines having a really good time, spending time with all of you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below. Don't forget that there are some things below that can help you support the channel if you want to. And beyond that, thanks so much for being here and being part of this journey with me. And as always, God bless America.